I'm in that age group, electronics is not my.
Well, you can't see them out there in the weeds. Nobody's.
Okay, the clock appears at 10 o'clock, so we are going to call this, meeting of the Oklahoma County Budget Board to order. At this time, let's do roll call, please.
Kevin Calvey.
Here.
Forrest Freeman.
Here.
Brian Mons, present. Carrie Bloomer.
Here.
David Hooten.
Present.
Rick Warren.
Aye.
Larry Stein. Here. Petey Taylor.
Here. Okay.
All others, I'd rather that the clerk do roll call. That's okay.
I just was waiting.
Yeah, I thought the clerk doesn't.
Got it.
All right. Okay. Next item is, discussion possible action to set the date, time, and place that we'll reconvene in the event that we have technical difficulties.
I don't think we need to do that.
Everybody's present.
Yeah. Never mind on one. Okay. Notice this meeting was posted on Tuesday, May 19th. This time we'll do the Pledge of Allegiance. Mr. Watson.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you.
Next item is approval of minutes. And we got, I believe, minutes for the regular meeting from Thursday, April 16th. Special meetings from Monday, April 27th, Friday, May 8th, and Tuesday, May 12th.
Motion to approve.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second to approve those 4 sets of minutes. All in favor? Or do we have to do roll call for it?
We don't have to do roll call. Since we're all here, we're allowed to just vote.
Gotcha. That's what you tried to tell me before. Okay. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion passes. Next up is the consent agenda, and I believe consent agenda is number 3 through 32.
Motion to approve. May I, 1 second, may I make a motion, Larry, to approve with the, just with the caveat that number 31, the consent item was not on the attachment, but I do have it if anyone would choose to view it. It just didn't get on the attachment. That's all. Motion to make, to approve that with that caveat.
Second.
Okay, have a motion and a second to approve the consent agenda with that noted. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Passes. Item number 33, discussion possible action regarding the monthly financial report. Mr. Lambert.
Good morning.
Morning, Dan.
Which one should we go to, Danny?
The PowerPoint is what I'll be going over. Here you go.
Thank you.
All right, the first slide of the PowerPoint, this is all your budget, general fund, as of the end of April. I want to point out we've got $8.4 million in reserve. Just a side note, last year we had carried over about $3.3 million from reserve. So we've got a lot more to carry over this year. We just factored that into our budget when we built the budget. So just to let you know, you've got that money sitting there in case we need it by the end of this year. Sliding up over a couple more pages, we'll look at the general fund budget analysis. As of the end of April, we have collected in revenue 99.7% of what we budgeted for the year. That's the exact same percentage we collected through April of last year. We ended the month with a $34.3 million cash balance in general fund. Next slide is still general fund comparing April of last year to April of this year. We have collected $4.4 million more in revenue than we did the same time last year. Nothing surprising there. We actually budgeted $4.2 million increase over last year. And expenditures to date, we have spent about almost $3.6 million more out of our general fund budget than a year ago. Last year at this time, we had budgeted about a $2.2 million increase. So you'll probably see that even out here the last month. Next slide is Employee Benefits Fund. Projecting the last 2 months, May and June, based on what we have spent through April. We do anticipate we'll end the year in the positive of about $623,000. The good news is May's claims are down considerably, so that you'll probably see that number go up a bit further, what we will carry over going into next year. So the very next slide is our medical and prescription claim comparison. Through May the 20th, we have paid out about $228,000 less in claims that we did at the same time last year. And John will address the reason for that here in a minute. And then you net out all the stop loss reimbursements, et cetera. We're about 1.6% net over the same time last year. So basically, we're paid up the same amount of claims as we did a year ago. Right. The very last slide is your capital projects. Of course, we update that every month with your projects. If you ever need to go and see what projects are ongoing, ending, or completed, you can always refer back to this page. That's all I have.
Move to accept his report. Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you, Danny. Mr. Wilkerson.
John Howard.
Doing well. How are you? Good morning.
Good morning.
I'm just going to give you a quick verbal update. Amy touched on the numbers, and the good news is we have claims for the end of this month. And where we're going to sit at is about 100,000 under where we were last year at this point. So coming in under budget, under last year. There's some big concerns of, hey, how has this shutdown impacted our claims? You know, I monitor inpatient hospitalizations on a daily basis, outpatient stuff. The thing is, a lot of those cases that we don't realize are still going on. So cancer cases, dialysis cases, we've had a lot of inpatient stays while we're closed. Those claims are still churning. So don't expect a big uptick next month or the next month. We're still paying those claims. But we still see a lot of urgent care, emergency room stuff going on. So we don't expect a big uptick in claims costs, which is good. We have surgery scheduled now. We're seeing those members are getting their we say optional, but they had to wait. We're seeing those scheduled now. So everything's churning. Everything's back open, which is good, but there's not going to be a huge unexpected cost to it. That's what I wanted to share with you.
Any questions for Joe?
Motion to receive.
Second. Got a motion and a second to receive. All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you. Cody? Next item. Report from the budget evaluation team.
Good morning, Cody.
Mike Smaker.
Thank you. All right, no new items added to the watch list this month. We do have a recommendation from an agenda item that was on our meeting. That's item number 38. So I'd be happy to discuss briefly with you if you have any questions. I think juvenile should be online to answer specific questions. 51 is the budget. Happy to answer questions when you guys get to that. And 54 was an item that we discussed, but we don't have a recommendation because there wasn't a specific enough agenda item to make a recommendation, but I can kind of fill you in on some of our general discussions when you get to item 54 if you wish. Other than that, I don't have anything else on this particular agenda item.
Motion to receive.
Second. A motion and a second to receive. All in favor?
Aye.
Motion passes. Thank you, Cody. Okay, now moving into the departmental items. Item number 36 is a request from Larry Stein. Larry?
Yes, sir. The resolution is for our management information system, MIS. I could read it, but I'd really like to just remind everybody that county government isn't a sheriff's cruiser or a building or anything else. It's people. And we've got some great people. Dane Coffey and Rich Stewart are a couple of those good people who helped create a great environment for the technology in Oklahoma County. And over this last 6-7 weeks, because of the leadership that they provided, the assessor's office was able to create all sorts of independent offices in the homes of our employees so they could continue to work and provide everything we needed for our customers. And no one could tell the difference in the services we provided because of the technological advances that were made by MIS on the telephone systems that helped us have a seamless response to our customers and all the other advances they've made. And with that, I appreciate the votes of everyone in the building and support of those two guys who've done such a great job, and we appreciate them very, very much.
This is a resolution from the budget board to these people?
Yes, sir.
The same.
Make a motion to accept.
Second.
Any further questions, comments? All in favor?
Aye.
Great job, guys.
It has been a great job, the whole county team. Interesting times. Item number 37 is transfer appropriations from general fund court services, benefits to salary, and an amount of $400. Grant, any additional words on this?
Motion to approve.
Second.
Got a motion and a second, all in favor?
Aye.
Item 38, resolution transfer from general fund juvenile bureau, and this is the one that Cody was just talking about, and I also received a memo on this, and it's within her budget, so.
Motion to receive. Second. Motion to approve.
Second. Okay, we have a motion and a second to approve. All in favor?
Aye.
Item 39, transfer of general appropriations from general fund social services to the tune of $51.8 thousand from salary, benefits, and travel to operation and capital. Christie? Oh. You're stealthy.
Healthy today. Good morning. This is for a purchase of a handicapped accessible vehicle. We actually had put it in our budget request for next year, but we've had multiple issues with staffing shifts this year where we ended up with enough. If we can do this transfer, we'd be able to do that now and then remove it from the request for next fiscal year.
All right.
Motion.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you.
Thank you, Christie. Item number 40, transfer of appropriations from general fund benefits and retirements in the amount of $5,450,000 from, no, 5,450. I was reading on travel to capital, said they got a $5 million travel.
Can't touch that paper.
No, they can't.
Yeah.
John, where are you, my friend?
Good morning again. Since we're not having travel this fiscal year, we need computer equipment for the staff to work at home. And just so right now they're hauling all their equipment back and forth. So this is just transfer money from travel to capital to buy computer equipment.
Motion to approve.
Second.
Okay, you have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you. Just stay real close because you're going to come back up here shortly. All right, the next resolution is resolution number 2020-2018, transfer of appropriations from the court clerk, $22,000.
Transferring, 20,000 to benefits, 2,000 into M&O.
Motion to approve.
Second.
Got a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Item 42, discussion of possible action to approve the renewal agreement with the Surgery Center and Oklahoma County for fiscal year 2021. John?
Correct. There are no changes to this agreement. Still a money saving thing for the county and our employees.
Motion to approve. Second.
Got a motion and a second to approve. All in favor?
Aye.
Motion passes. Next, 43, discussion of possible action, the renewal agreement between Rivas.
Motion to approve.
Second. What's this agreement on?
Well, this is for brain care. This is our mental health and brain care.
I definitely-
I was going to add one thing to it. They added some office visit stuff. Previously, it was just brain care, but they have a nurse practitioner and a PA that works there. So when our members go there to get other stuff done, if they have a cough, cold, they can be seen for those things now. So it's in great pricing. They gave us Medicare pricing, which no one does. So we're good.
Press motion.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second to approve. All in favor?
Aye.
I need to look into that. Thank you very much.
I was wondering if anybody was not going to qualify for that one.
Item 44. All right, John.
Go ahead. This is just standard renewal with Delta Dental.
Motion to approve. Second.
Got a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
45.
The standard renewal with health check screening.
Motion to approve. Second.
Got a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
46.
46 is standard renewal with YMCA.
Motion to approve. Second.
Got a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
47.
47 is our health plan actuary services. Got them to reduce the price a little bit by $3,500. So,
Motion to approve. Second.
Got a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Item 48.
48, this is just real quick. This is our RX consulting agreement. This contract has saved us tons of money. That's where we get all our rebates from. They've kept our prescription costs going down from year to year. It's been amazing.
Motion to approve.
Okay, we got a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
49.
49 is for the channel bound agreement. This is for our ACA. They print our 1095 tax plan
Motion to approve.
notices.
Just a second. Okay, we got a motion and a second. What is it? For ACA?
Affordable Care Act. There's some health requirements that everybody receives a 1095P form. It just says, hey, you have health coverage. The IRS requires it, so we send it out. And that's what they produce those statements.
Okay. All right, we had a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
All right, item number 50, approval of the Evolution Provider Network Services.
And this is the last one. This is our Evolution 100% program. It's provider service network agreement, no changes.
Motion. Okay, got a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Item 51. Thank you very much, John. Okay, item 51, discussion possible action, the recommendations from the BET on our fiscal year 2021 general fund annual budget. Cody?
Good morning again. As you recall, at last month's budget board meeting, we discussed a plan to establish just a flat line budget based upon the current fiscal year budget, and then in the next amount of time before September, we'll be able to get back together, discuss the estimate of needs, potential increases or decreases to each individual budget. This agenda item before you is a recommendation for that flat budget with two exceptions. Speaking with Mr. Lambert, I completely agree with him, and so did the rest of EET. Got a couple of cash transfer items that we need to go ahead and make the adjustment on the front end instead of waiting until the back end. And that's the workers' compensation, cash transfer in, as well as self-insurance. So those two would have an uptick from the previous fiscal year. Everything else would remain the same. On the attachment that you have, the sheriff's, the two line items for the sheriff's department, their estimate of needs that they turned in was a little bit higher than what was on this sheet. So that column needs a little bit of an adjustment, but it doesn't affect the recommendation because the recommendation is still flat based on the last year. If you guys need those new numbers, I can give them to you, but that's the only change on that one.
Motion to approve.
Questions? Okay, we have a motion now.
I would just, under discussion, I'd like to bring up a couple of points so the budget board would be aware of my position. In reference to what 51, funding for lease not included in our estimate of need. An option for lease funding has been discussed as coming out of general government. That would be consistent with other leases in the county. Court clerk. Flat budget, this is important. Flat budget doesn't take into account the split between the trust and the jail. Flat budget doesn't take into account the split in the office and the shifting personnel cost from detention general fund to law enforcement general fund. So we're looking at approximately 20 positions there that will be coming from general fund over to law enforcement, such as part of warrants and records personnel, all of these things. So that's certainly an issue. And then 50% rule needs to be considered. It's only 3 months, but we will need to be aware of the increased personnel.
Okay.
All of that can be handled in the September supplement, can't it?
That was part of the discussion of the EET, that we would be able to have plenty of time to come in and make those necessary adjustments.
Sheriff, will that work for you in September supplement, or do you have concerns right now? Well, I mean, I think if it's addressed in September, I think we'll be okay, but I just wanted to make you aware that we've all been aware this is coming, and there's certainly movement of bodies for us to function on the law enforcement side, and that's not addressed in that flat budget. So
And then I only had one other issue to bring up is it appears going flat budget, we might be funding the trust a little over $1 million more than we really need to. So come September, who's going to take that million plus away from the trust? I mean, that's just an issue for y'all to think about.
All right, any other questions?
That's it.
BET had a little bit of discussion there, so if the trust takes over on July 1, what our recommendation, and that we don't have one yet, but what I would anticipate we would discuss is instead of that detention budget being in the sheriff's budget, we would just move that allocation into general fund, and then as the trust needs money, because we're not going to have $31 million on, or 30 million or however much available on July 1 to transfer anyway. So you just move all of that into general fund government. And then when we have a better idea, we can always adjust that number just like we adjust the other numbers. And if there is an item that needs to be specifically addressed before the September supplement, we'll still have general fund reserve dollars that we could always look at making a recommendation using that to get through until we get to September supplement.
We had a motion to approve on myself and second by Larry Stein.
Okay. The holding it at, at the current level, what's the date? What's the date that you're using? June 30? You're using the April date.
Yeah, the April date, April 30.
April
The
30.
end of April.
So whatever we've got loaded for right now for current year that I've got loaded or that's loaded into my fund as of April 30th is what my starting budget's going to be.
Yes, that's what these numbers are all based on, on April 3rd.
Okay.
And then this also gives us time to publish it, to do everything.
Just what now?
Gives us time to publish the budget in a timely manner.
Okay. Any other questions? If not, we've got a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you, Cody. Item 52, discussion and possible action to receive our estimates and needs. And I think that's all required on here is just a motion to receive.
May I add, I would motion to receive with the caveat that, number 52, the sheriff's budget did not get attached because we received it, after we had posted. So if it's available in my office, but I would motion to receive with that caveat.
Second. All right, got a motion and a second. Any further questions, discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Item passes. 53, a resolution requiring legal review of all proposed expenditures from the Coronavirus Relief Fund. Commissioner Mon?
Yes, this is just a legal review request. I had put on a dual companion item on the BOCC agenda yesterday, which was deferred to the next policy and governance meeting. But the reasoning behind this is just to make sure that we're not presented with an option or a request for this body or the BOCC to vote on that's not been first cleared to be legal by the DA.
The DA has been approved, or has been approached on this, I'm sure.
Yeah, I'm actually in consultation with both Ms. Etherington and Mr. Prater. I move the item.
Second. Okay, any further questions, comments?
May I ask a question? Does this mean that every time there is a recommendation from policy and government, it would go to the DA and then it would be approved and then come to the budget board and then go to the BOCC? Is that?
It's just like the signing off for legality to form where they would check, it's my understanding, where they would approve that it was a legal option for us to consider. There are rules. Aaron, do you care to share and talk about some of the rules and restrictions?
There's some items, Aaron, that's common sense, such as hand sanitizers, masks, things like that. And of course, we would have to subtract what we used the year before so that we not paying for something we normally already buy. But those things should just be retroactive, where it's just automatic. Keep those in stock.
That's why I was just wondering if we're going to have everything be approved or just questionable ones.
Would it,
BOCC kicked this over to policy and governance for them to decide whether, how the best to shape this, because it may be an overabundance on the DA's office to send every little single item that we expend CARES Act funds on. For instance, Larry, your office, for instance, could possibly have reimbursement for the $5,450 worth of computers that you just transferred money for.
Okay.
Do you want to send that to the DA's office? Masks that we bought with emergency management money, do we want to send that to the DA's office for approval? I mean, we're going to put so much on them and slow the process down of reimbursement for what the CARES Act funds were intended to do. There's 4 pages of guidelines on how to spend that money. It's been pretty clear. There's examples across the country on how to spend the money. Senator Langford is speaking with Commissioner Calvi, and I think possibly Commissioner Blumert and Commissioner Mon soon. I don't know if they scheduled anything with you guys, but there are examples. The state has also set up their website. I think we need to take their lead and wait for what policy and governance comes out and decides on how to do this, because they may decide that, okay, this is an item that should probably go for review. This is an item that, no, just go ahead and push that through. I think that's smart. And we're doing that through BET. So
it seems that, though, once again, common sense. I think our DA has a lot of common sense when it comes to some of these things, such as the mask and things. I think once they approve that once, as long as they kept an eye on it, like I said, we should pay for what we normally use, but yet is it advanced? I'd probably use $15,000, $20,000 last year. If I use $50,000, the difference should be paid back. I think the DA would know that, but like the computers, nothing against Larry. I want him to have what he needs, but maybe that doesn't meet the requirements. And I would want to look at it if I ask for computers. I definitely want you to tell me to make sure I don't step in the mud puddle. Having a lawyer not using them is kind of boots.
I will advise the board, you've probably heard me say this once or twice in the past, that there's certainly nothing required under the law for you to seek approval of the district attorney's office or review from the district attorney's office before you take any action whatsoever. We are here to aid you and provide advice for your consideration as one piece of information of many pieces of information that this body and you as individual elected officials would have to consider on a daily basis. The expenditure of these funds is no different, even though the circumstances by which the county is receiving them certainly is. So this is really a purely policy consideration for the board as to how best the body feels in handling these. Certainly there are both federal law implications and state law implications. And to the extent that it's beneficial to have our legal advice in both of those areas, which perhaps the Treasury guidelines could not provide you because they obviously can't consider specific state law issues, it's a matter for the board to consider if that would be valuable or not.
We have a motion and a second, right, Butch?
What was the motion? To approve. Okay.
My question is, if we approve this, Aaron, does it mean every item goes to you guys, or is it just the items we need to question? I just don't want to bury you all with stuff that is common sense.
And that's the policy decision for this body to make. We're certainly happy to consider every single one that is submitted. As Mr. Warren has suggested, there is very likely some categories of items that we may only need to look at once and be able to tell you that it complies with both state and federal law. We're happy to give priority to these kinds of questions, recognizing that timeliness would be of utmost importance. But it's again, still a policy decision, how this board wants to define what classes of questions they submit to us.
Now, what did the Board of County Commissioners do?
So we have the Board of County Commissioners has a group that is the deputies.
Yes.
It's called Policy and Governance.
Yes.
And it develops policy, and it gets down into the nitty gritty. It works with the DA, and we sit there and we beat things to death and refine them until everybody is in agreement to be able to put it on the BOCC, and then we push it for policy.
Okay, so that's my point is, so are we ready to vote on this then, if your board's not even ready to vote on it?
I would say no.
Yeah, I'm
Motion to table.
I think that's what we're looking for.
Well, you've already got a motion on the floor, Mr. Chairman, so the other motion's inappropriate.
No,
Without me with.
most of the table actually is allowed, and it's from both.
I have no idea.
I don't.
On a motion to
If I
table,
haven't withdrawn my motion, I don't think you can table my motion.
a motion to table trumps both the motion and the second, and it, I'm pretty aware of that.
All right. There's no debate.
All right. I guess we could do, to make it clear or make it clean, you can withdraw your motion, right?
I don't want to.
Oh,
You're
all
quoting.
right.
No, all I'm trying to do is, I want the DA to look at all the ones we need assistance on. I just don't want to set a precedent that every single one has to be approved by the DA's office, because I think that might slow the process down, and I think that the budget board is already implementing lots of control. That's why I would like to make the motion to table. If you'd like, I would make another motion to later have the DA look at any that we need assistance with, but all of them doesn't make sense to me, because I think it's going to encumber or slow us down, and I'm very aware of how desperate people are right now, and they need help, and including, I just really think there's an urgency here, and our DA office does a wonderful job, but we're talking about possibly thousands of those things, and so that's my only purpose of doing that.
I'm still bothered by the fact that the board would not pass it and have sent it for further review and consideration to their policy and guidance group. I'd rather hear what the policy and guidance group comes back. Now, if we do have a motion, we do have a second. So if there's any further discussion, otherwise, then I'm going to call for the vote. I will call for a roll call.
Well, I had a motion
According to rule, though, I think that I think the rule is that if he makes a table, that rule does set.
Well,
You'll find that out later, but I do think.
Mr. Stein, would you like to quote it verbatim from Robert's rule?
The motion to table is a prior motion, there's no debate, you vote on it immediately. And then if you don't, if it fails, then you go back to the regular
That's
motion.
exactly what I thought.
I understood not a word you said.
Sorry, tabling the motion is a prior motion, it needs to take precedent over everything. You have to decide that prior motion before you can go to the other rest of the other
And
motions.
you take a vote on that, right?
All right,
Without debate.
without debate. Okay, do we have a motion to table? Do we have a second?
We don't need a second.
You don't need a second. All right, we have a motion to table. All in favor? Any opposed?
No.
Okay, motion passes. This item is tabled. This item is tabled. Okay, what's our item number 50?
Yes.
That was 53. Item 54. Discussion possible action to approve supplemental funding to the Oklahoma County Office of Emergency Management.
Good morning. As you know, we are looking at substantial needs in the area of personal protective equipment as well as other aspects of continuing to protect our employees, continuing to protect the public in regard to the COVID-19 situation. I know some elected officials have utilized funding that they have on hand and have purchased some protective equipment as well as some materials to perform those functions. And I've also had access to the Strategic National Stockpile for this will be the 9th week now. However, we are being told through the state, who makes the request to the federal government to activate Strategic National Stockpile, that as we've said all along, that resource is short-lived, and we're anticipating a cutoff in those resources very soon. With that anticipated cutoff, my office made a pretty substantial request for this week, which could be the final week, as I know Sheriff Taylor did in his folks also, which were the two highest frequency of use comes in, mine obviously representing county offices here and these functions, and then the obvious implications of the sheriff's office. I've gone through in the mask area, which I would clarify, we're talking about surgical type masks primarily, although I do have N95 masks in stock also, but according to City County Health Department and other guidance, the N95 masks are really set aside for healthcare providers and people who are doing the sampling, doing the testing for the virus. The recommended methodology for general public and for the use that we would have would be the surgical mask and or cloth mask. So that is where our focus has been, at least in the mask area. We've gone through, from my office, we've distributed approximately 4,000 masks this week. I know a lot of those are sitting in stock in various offices in the court and wherever they haven't been necessarily used and are gone. But that does give us really the only picture we have, because that's the time frame when we went to reopen on the 18th and increased services, increased traffic here at county facilities. I've got about 7,000 on hand. So obviously supplies are already running short or conceivably short, depending on the duration of this event, which was stated previously in someone else's presentation. We do not know what the duration of this event is going to be. So this item was placed on the agenda to respectfully request funding be provided to my office or whatever mechanism you see as viable and as appropriate. Certainly can coordinate through my office for the purchase of additional stocks, personal protective equipment, also to include sanitizer, wipes, those type of materials, so that we can continue our concerted effort at Oklahoma County to protect our employees and our customers. I'd be happy to offer any additional information we've gone through. I've received countless solicitations from vendors since we started, as I'm sure you have as well. We've looked at about 45 different vendors at least, and Chantel and Purchasing Department has been extremely proactive in this regard as well, has done a phenomenal job. We have pared it down and looked at the products, the cost factors, et cetera, and we've narrowed it down to a company that I'm looking at for a purchase now, and we went even to the length of going to a personal reference from them of providers who they have provided and the quality equipment, because as you probably heard, I can order you 20,000 masks and have them here in a couple of days, but the straps will fall off. Obviously, that's not an option. So we looked at product viability as well as shipping time, turnaround times, and we also checked, as I said, as a reference that they provided for us, which the term I got back was stellar. So we're looking at what appears to be a very good product. We've also compared prices from multiple quotes, multiple people. We've received a couple of formal quotes that Chantel has. We've looked online, including Amazon. We've looked at everything all the way to Walmart. And we've done a great deal of due diligence in looking at pricing and product. And I'm prepared to make purchase if funding is made available. And we're looking at least the statement that was made to me yesterday. I can have 20,000 additional masks here by next week, which turnaround time is a big deal. A lot of people are talking into June. Some people are saying, well, they're not available. I'll give you the best price in town, but I can't get you the product, which is no value to us. Looking long term, we've already seen, not that I necessarily trust any statistic coming out of China, but we're also already getting information that they're having a resurgence and have shut down some areas, possibly a different strain that has developed. We typically are considering a possible resurgence as the reopening process continues. We're relatively new in that process, and the numbers so far have not shown significant increase, although it is still potential. And a lot of discussion about a potential resurgence towards the end of the year, obviously getting into winter, fall and winter. So there's that issue as well. And I just believe it's prudent to have a significant stock on hand to, again, continue to protect our employees and our public.
I would like to ask you if the supply that you need, I don't think we should spoon feed this to our employees. I feel like we've done a great job keeping our people safe right now. Each one of us has worked diligently to keep all of our staff safe, and we've been very lucky. We've had a couple of people. But overall, our people have stayed apart. We've been, I find it offensive when they say reopening of the building. We've been here every day, and many of the others have been here every day. And we had to be here. It's our job. We took it seriously. And so to spoon feed this makes no sense. I estimate from talking to you, I ran the numbers, and I know how many masks that I give out approximately 400 masks just to my employees a week. These are throwaways. They can wear them 1 or 2 days. Something happens, they sneeze, they need a new mask. And so for a few dollars not to keep them safe, it makes no sense to me. I think that the number I'm looking at, I could be wrong, is about $50,000 a month is what you're going to need to keep these people safe with all the products you're going to need. I would say we fund the $600,000 today out of the money that we received. And then if he doesn't need it, we can give it back because we don't use the money. We're going to give it back anyway. And so therefore we have taken care of the one thing that we know is common sense that we shouldn't have to ask all the time. So we handle it right now up front and get that out of the way. Now he doesn't have to go buy $50,000 worth of mask. He has that money. So if the prices should fall during the summer, he can stockpile because I've paid as high as $5 a mask and as cheap as 42 cents a mask. But as being the largest employer here, I've had to buy a lot of products, and I appreciate what you did for the courts, giving them some masks. I appreciate the outside work you're doing, but we all need to work together. This is the time to keep the sheriff's office. With that 50,000, that would include the sheriff's office. That would include everyone, and you feel like that would be enough to take care of all. And that way, we have one source. We're not all going and buying products. We have one source. It's easier to track for accounting reasons. We come and check out masks, you write it down. We want hand sanitizer, you write it down. That would be, to me, the common sense, the more manageable way of doing something.
I'd motion to approve $50,000 for the emergency management or PPE or other.
I'd make a motion of $600,000.
Sorry, you got a motion.
Okay.
Do we need to,
We meet every month, so.
Every month.
the $50,000, do we need, if that's your motion, do you need to specify where that's coming from? Like if that's coming from, if we're paying that out of reserve or where that's coming from?
Out of the coronavirus money.
Treasurer, I'm not sure, do we need to?
I know the BET discussed this because my first concern is the way the agenda item is written, there is no dollar amount in it. And I'm not sure we can vote on a dollar amount since it was never in the motion.
Is that right? Okay.
Anything I'm seeing attached. Mr. Hooten's motion is inappropriate, counsel.
Well, I don't recall what his motion was, but if you're trying to put a dollar figure, I mean, the agenda item's not sufficient to give the public notice that you're considering a specific dollar figure.
Do you feel that it's sufficient enough to
I'll remove mine off.
to fund like a time span or to fund an item to purchase? Like if I were to say that I would make a motion to fund the purchase of PPE for X amount of time, do you think that, that wording, because that was one of the things that we had discussed pretty extensively in BET.
Well, when you say fund, to me, that implies authorizing
An amount?
an amount, and that's what your agenda item is lacking.
Okay.
So I don't think that fixes the problem.
Okay.
Jody, what reason?
Our discussion in BET, we didn't have a specific agenda item other than to receive an update, so we couldn't really make an official recommendation. However, there seemed to be consensus on a funding of PPE for Barnes through the end of the calendar year and not just looking at the next few months. That way we're not caught unaware if we do have a spike and we need way more than what the guess was. Now, the concern from where to fund it, we didn't know if item 53 was going to be passed. If 53 were to be passed, then you wouldn't be able to authorize CARES dollars in this meeting because that would then need to go before the district attorney's office. So our recommendation, well, our discussion was if Mr. Barnes was going to put an agenda item on here as it related to funding, to leave the funding a little broad so you could pick whether it would come out of CARES or come out of general fund reserve. With 53 not passing, I do think you would be able to authorize the expenditure out of the CARES fund. Now, the dollar amount not being listed in the agenda item, that's a separate issue.
When we do redo it, instead of going to December, think about that. We have to give the money back that we don't use. We have to utilize the money for the disease by December. So if we think that this disease isn't going to happen the same month it's happened this time, it didn't happen in the summertime. It may, we don't know yet. We do know that it happened January, February, March, even in April and May. So it would make sense to buy enough supplies for a year, and it would meet what I read in those documents because we're preparing. I mean, you guys remember, at least I do, last year when I was buying products, it was cheap. This year, like I said, I paid as much as $5 a mask when I couldn't get any, and I was out. And so
can we call a special meeting? Can we call a special meeting and bring this back with an actual recommended dollar amount?
And
Okay.
Mr. Barnes, what would that dollar amount be? Because what we discussed at BET was, if I recall correctly, was $450. Does that sound right?
Would be a stopgap, I'll put it that way.
No, 450,000 would be a stopgap
Now, 450 is what we're talking about.
for the end of the year. Yeah.
do you feel like 450 will get you to December, right?
One of the unknowns is the cost of sanitizer.
Right.
Because I've not been purchasing that, and specifically focusing on PPE. But having the capability in-house, track data, with Mr. Monroe's confidence, we could approach a reallocation if necessary, or as you said, return the funds.
Well, being in fact that the federal government gave us this money to use to fight a disease and not to protect our own people first, to make sure that everybody in this building, everybody comes to this building is safe. Even if we put too much money in there and you are not going to spend it except as you need it, the money can go back. It's going to go back anyway if you don't use it. But I would rather have you funded than underfunded. I would rather overfund you and see to it that we have all the supplies. And then when we come in December, we can look at where you're at, what you're averaging a month, and we can make another decision at a different meeting later once we get some facts in.
I think what we could do is, my anticipation is to call, we recess our BET meeting until this afternoon, so we'll have some more discussions. But the extent is going to be related to policies and procedures, not a recommendation of a particular fund amount. My anticipation is that we will have BET meetings weekly, specifically related to the CARES Act money, so we can make sure that we have an agenda item on there for Mr. Barnes. And in the meantime, Mr. Barnes can reach out and canvass all the departments again, including juvenile and the sheriff's department and yourself, to make sure that we have a complete list of potential need, and then that can be brought to BET, and then budget board should call a special meeting there sometime thereafter to be able to consider that recommendation.
Chairman, would it be appropriate to make a motion to approve funding for the emergency management to come out of the government funds we've received and leave it at that, but require there to be a dollar amount on any non-county related entity requirements?
I don't think we can do that based on what Aaron said.
Yeah.
I think honestly, at this point, the easiest thing for us to do is just to call an emergency meeting of the budget board.
Monday.
Yeah, as early as.
We're not here Monday.
Tuesday.
Tuesday, whenever.
Be careful with Tuesday.
You're letting
The
people off
notification
Monday.
time.
Memorial Day.
Based on the time you need to maybe put together a recommendation for how much you need, how much money you're requesting, if we were to hold a special meeting Tuesday, is that sufficient enough time, or would you like us to wait a little bit longer?
No, that's fine.
Okay.
We need to move on.
Okay.
Some of the providers have already said, you need to place your order today if you want it next week, otherwise we have no guarantee.
Okay.
And we could call a special budget board meeting if we take care of knowing that we're going to do that today. We can post it properly and get the agenda item correct so that it can have a dollar amount.
So then if we're calling a special, do we need to do anything with this item?
I don't know if we need to call a special. You've got money funds available to be able to accomplish that task now. And we all realize when Chief needs money to be able to accomplish something, we can always come back and allocate funds later. And if you need that stuff to be able to make this courthouse safe and keep the employees and all the staff safe, and those that are entering the business, it's time to buy the stuff.
But I think the issue is that you don't have the money in your accounts right now.
In which account?
in general fund.
That's why I was, why can't I make the motion to allow us to extend those funds, the COVID funds, for the use of emergency management?
Because it's not in the agenda item
There's no dollar sign
listed in
attached.
the
I know, I'm
agenda
not
item.
saying the dollar sign. I'm-
Dollar amount, sorry. not
Well,
dollar.
and if, even if we were able to move forward with your agenda item, that doesn't solve Mr.
The
Williams'
issue,
problem because there would still not be a transfer of dollars. He needs the dollars transferred specifically to him so that he can encumber, cut a PO, and place the
Right.
order. So even if this says that you're going to pay for it out of CARES, there's still going to need to be another meeting before he can take another step towards procuring that equipment.
Aaron, is there anything we can do with this agenda item? You obviously hear what we're trying to do.
I can certainly appreciate what the board is trying to do. Unfortunately, the agenda item's just not gonna allow a means to get there. You know, what limited action you could take with this agenda item, I agree with Mr. Compton, doesn't actually get you to what the goal you're trying to accomplish. It would still require another meeting or another action item that actually specified a dollar amount.
A motion to strike.
Got a motion to strike item number 54. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Motion is struck. Item
Thank you,
is
Mr.
struck.
Barnes.
Okay, at this time, we're going to board comments and general remarks. Board comments, Larry?
Well, I appreciate the support of the resolution for our MIS department, but this technology that David's been able to put in, the clerk's office and put in is amazing too, being able to have meetings, and I appreciate it very much. I was on the elevator this morning, a gentleman didn't have a mask on, well-dressed, I think probably an attorney, started to get on the elevator, and I informed him that you're not allowed to be on the elevator without a mask on, and asked him to leave, and if looks could kill, he'd probably be serving time in McAllister right now, 20 to life.
For killing you?
I guess so. It's just a look. It's just a look.
Did you catch his name?
No, but he looked at me very carefully.
I have no comments. Commissioner?
No, again.
Commissioner?
I would like to thank the leadership that Judge Elliott has given us during this. He was here every day, Judge Henderson and many of the other judges, and all the help that they have given us through this. And very commendable that someone, presiding judge, never missed a day. He was here every day, working hard, and literally was in my office every day and planning and making the things work. I'd like to thank my staff. You know, as you know, we were there, we had to be there, and so they were there. And I'm very proud of each and every one of them. And I'd also like to mention, we lost somebody, Mike Kiss. Mike was the MIS director for the Florida Supreme Court and worked with Judge Gurich. Some of you may not have known that, but was not virus related. He had cancer and ended up dying of a stroke. But he was a great man. I had become friends with him, and Mike and I met with him constantly, sometimes weekly, monthly, whatever we needed, he was there for us, giving us all the support. And I'd like to tell his family we have the deepest sympathy for him, and our prayers are with him.
Okay. PD? Just to let the board know, the sheriff's office law enforcement side, we're planning on moving to the Krause building in the next few weeks. I'd like to remind everyone that we're paying full market value rent, and that building desperately needs some carpet shampooing and paint. If you can help me get there, I would appreciate it, since we're paying full market value rent on that building. I'd like to see some shampooing and paint brushes flying. But we are planning on making that move in the next few weeks, and we're excited about it. The employees are very excited about it. And I would like to thank any of the budget boards that's contacted me in appreciation for the outstanding job that the sheriff's department and our deputies have done in added security at the courthouse. Here. Okay. Mr. Hood?
This is a very special Memorial Day, and obviously has a very different meaning with what we are dealing with now. So I feel like to ask if everyone would who's willing and able to stand for a moment of silence in honor of our fallen heroes.
Thank you, Mr. Hooton. Okay, are there any general remarks? Hearing none, is there any new business?
Move we adjourn.
Got a motion to adjourn, do I have a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
We are adjourned.
I'm going to do this.